Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lysha from Lysha Be Creative, and in today's tutorial we are going to be making this teacher inspired split cup. It's actually a very popular design that I currently have in my shop and on my website, and so I'm going to show you exactly how I put this together. So of course everything I use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked down in the description box, as well as any discount codes that I may have for you. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial. Alright, so we are starting with a 30-ounce Ozark tumbler. These are just some tumblers that I've had for quite a while, and I'm getting down to the last few that I have of these. But we are going to prep and paint this with a flat white spray paint, and then we're going to use a bit of painter's tape so that we can split the cup in half. So you guys know how I roll. I do not like to measure the bottom, but you certainly can take the measurement of the bottom and then measure the exact halfway point of the bottom of the tumbler and then drag your tape down. I just like to eyeball it and kind of give my best guess and just make sure that my tape lines with my painter's tape are super straight along the sides of the cup. So once I have gotten my tape all assembled on the side of the cup, I just take a double check and make sure that everything looks perfect before I move on to the next step. So we're going to finish off our taping here, and I'm going to take a smaller section of the tape on the side that has the logo of the cup, and I am going to create a slant with my painter's tape so that we can get this side glittered and painted. And so now that we have that piece of tape applied to the cup, I'm going to base paint the bottom section of this front half of the tumbler with black 3.0. You certainly can use any black acrylic paint that you have. I currently am out of black acrylic paint, and so this is what I have currently. So this is supposed to be, again, the darkest black paint ever. It really is a very dark color, and I do love it, and so I'm definitely trying to make sure I get my use out of that. So I'm just going to take a Wet n Wild makeup brush from the Dollar Tree, my favorite brushes to use, and brush on this black paint. I'm going to do 2 full coats of the paint, drying them in between before I go in with my 3rd coat and apply my glitter right over top. So you're going to see me just applying the glitter over top. And so what we're going to be using is we are going to be using Teacher's Pet from my Aisha Creations. It's a black and white chunky glitter, and then over top of that we're going to go in with Luna 2.0. So I'm going to apply my Mod Podge, and then we'll get our glitter applied to the tumbler. So with your Mod Podge, just nice thin brush strokes all over that bottom section, that bottom painted section, making sure to get in all the crevices, especially down towards the bottom edge, making sure that you're getting all of the Mod Podge on your areas and you're not missing anything that is not going to then be glittered. So I am only going to do 1 coat of glitter for the bottom because this is a rather chunky glitter that I know I'm going to have to take a bit of time to push down and make sure that it is as flat as possible before I go into applying any coats of epoxy over top. So starting with Teacher's Pet, my chunkiest glitter, I'm going to go all over that section and including a little bit of the bottom as well. And then over top of that, I will go in with my Luna 2.0. So Luna 2.0 is from Glitter by Mama Boss. It is a very fine cut black glitter with some holographic specks and sparkle to it as well. It was a great additive to cover up all of the additional spots that the Teacher's Pet may have missed. So now that I have those applied, I am going to go through and just very carefully push down all of that chunky glitter. Again, you're going to have a lot of excess fall off because this is a chunkier glitter, and so you're definitely bound to get some of that glitter that's not quite sticking to your Mod Podge. So I'm going to take the extra step here to make sure that all of this glitter is super flat onto my cup. That way I don't have any issues when I go into my coats of epoxy. So with that section glittered, I'm going to move on to the top section. So I'm just going to remove that piece of tape, that slanted piece of tape off of my tumbler, and then we're going to get into applying glitter to the top half of this cup. So the cup is already base painted white, so I'm not going to add a base paint color. I'm just going to go directly in with my Mod Podge. So same process here, applying a thin coat of Mod Podge right up to the edge of that Teacher's Pet and Luna section, and making sure I get a nice layer of Mod Podge here, thick enough to adhere my glitter, because the goal here is only to do 1 coat of glitter on this section as well. So my goal here is to get the entire cup glittered in one shot, if you will, instead of waiting to do both sides. So this is the way that I've moved into wanting to do this, just because I find it to be a little bit time management wise, it saves me some time, but it definitely is a little bit tricky when we move to the other side. So I just glittered that section with fairy dust from 4K Glitter, which is from Shop Vinyl Gallery. I will link that down in the description with the discount code. And so now that I have that section done, I am going to remove the tape off of the back side, or off of the entire cup. So this is where you could easily take this, let it dry for an hour or two, and then go ahead and spray seal this one side so that it's completely secure. I liked to not do this just because I find it that I would rather just do all of the glittering in one shot. And so I am going to choose to flip to the other side and glitter that section as well. That way I can do all of my spray sealing at the same time and not have to do this in sections. But if you're someone who's not confident in doing so, please feel free to take the opportunity now to let that set aside and then spray seal it after it's completely dry before you move to the flip side of the cup. So same process here. We're going to tape off the other side. That way we can do the base painting and glittering for the pencil side of this cup. So I have my 1-inch painter's tape again, and I am just creating what is going to be the silver section of my cup. And so I am just creating a straight line right across that section, a little bit, probably about 1.25 inches from the top, because I want my eraser section to be a little bit bigger than this silver, this metal part of the cup. And so I'm just going to put painter's tape straight across that section, and now going in with just some washi tape that I got from, I believe, Michael's or Hobby Lobby, one of the two. I'm just kind of ripping off little strips here, and we're going to create the pencil part of the cup here, so like the wood part. So I'm just taking these little strips of washi tape and I am creating triangles essentially on my cup. And so you could go into Cricut Design Space and create your own, your own shape here for this section. I've done it in the past. I just have found that this is a little bit easier for me than going into Cricut and cutting off or printing off a stencil, but certainly do whatever works best for you. I just thought it would be quick and easy to do this with washi tape because again, like the tip or the end of a pencil isn't perfect anyway. So I think this is kind of like a realistic version of what the edge of that pencil or the wood part of the pencil would look like. So once I got that all nice and applied that washi tape, I'm just going to cut the very bottom edges because we are going to work with the very bottom of the cup, the middle, and the very top of the cup first before we go back in with the wood section and the silver section of the cup. So just cutting off any sections that are going to meet where my bottom sort of lead point is going to be. And then we're going to tape off over top of the washi tape that bottom section. So I have a nice line here, which makes it super easy to make sure that I am kind of getting the correct spacing, if you will, on that section and making sure I have a great even section across the bottom. So going in again with my black 3.0 and that Wet n Wild brush, getting this nice and painted as a base paint so we can go over that with Luna 2.0. So we're going to use that fine glitter with that holographic sparkle to be the bottom part where the lead would be. And so after that paint has dried, I'm going to go in with a thin coat of Mod Podge. I did only do one coat of the black paint on the bottom, I forgot to mention. So one coat of Mod Podge, and then we're going to go in with our glitter. So again, this is the Luna 2.0, and we're going to get full coverage on this bottom section with that glitter before we move on to other sections of the cup. So after that black section is glittered, we're going to remove that painter's tape off of the bottom section, and we're going to move into glittering the other sections. So I'm going to take advantage now, and I'm going to cut off the excess washi tape where the triangles meet, because we are going to base paint and glitter this pencil section too, sort of the colored section of the pencil. And so I'm going to shape up these little pieces of washi tape, just cutting off the excess where they overlap to make sure I have a nice clean section to work with so that I can base paint. So we're going to go in with the top section first, and I'm going to apply some Mod Podge with just a paintbrush, and I'm not going to base paint, but you certainly can. And I'm going to go over this section with Hot Pink from Glitter by Mama Boss, a beautiful hot pink color. Love this. Super fine, which I loved as well. So we're just going to go over that section one time with Hot Pink here and get that full coverage onto that section. Once I am done with Hot Pink, I'm going to move into the largest section of the cup, which is going to be that middle section. And so for this section, I'm going to be using a paint called Grape Taffy. It's just a regular acrylic paint that I picked up in a pack from Michael's, and we are going to base paint the middle section of the pencil on this side of the cup. So I am going to go in with 2 coats of the acrylic paint. I wasn't getting the coverage that I wanted with the paint on the first coat, so I did go in with 2 coats, and because the glitter that I know is a very light color, I want to make sure I can get full coverage with 1 full coat and not have to go in and wait for the Mod Podge to dry before going in with a second coat. So once I get 2 coats of acrylic paint on here, my third coat will include Mod Podge, and then we are going to go right over the top of this with Vervain from my Aisha Creations. It's a beautiful lilac color that I just picked up from her website, and I already know that I'm in love with this color, so you'll probably see it a lot in future tutorials. So once that part is done, we now can remove all of the taped sections at this point in time, because we are going to finish up with our final 2 painted sections, or glittered sections, I should say. So once I've removed my tape, the last 2 sections are going to be metallic glitters, so I'm not going to base paint because I know I can get really good coverage with any metallic color. And so we're going to start with the silver section, the silver metal section of the pencil here, and taking a fine straight edge paintbrush, get a thin coat of Mod Podge on this section, and then go in with pixie dust from Glitter Makes It Glitters. So that is a super fine silver metallic glitter, absolutely beautiful, and the perfect silver to add to this section of the pencil. So once I've glittered my silver section, I then will move into my gold section, which will be the sort of the wood part of the pencil. And so for that section, I'm actually going to Mod Podge in sections, if you will, on this part, as I'm going to do kind of 1 triangle at a time and do a layer of Mod Podge and then go in with my glitter. So I split this into 2 sections just because it took a little bit longer to Mod Podge, and I didn't want my Mod Podge to completely dry on me. So I decided to take it in sections so I really could make sure I was getting really close to the purple section of my pencil here and making sure that I had full coverage. So we're going in with Gold Member from Peachy Olive Glitters, a beautiful gold, my go-to gold when I need a true gold color for any of my projects. So going in with this final section here, and then I will be able to be on to the next step in the process. So once I'm done with glittering this entire cup, I am going to let the Mod Podge sections dry for probably about 1 to 2 hours just to be safe, and then I am going to brush off with a chip brush any of the excess glitter on all my sections, and then I'm going to spray seal the heck out of this thing. And I probably am going to apply about 4 to 5 coats on both sides and make sure it is completely clear and there's no extra glitter falling before I go in with 2 coats of Quick Coat from Amazing Clear Cast. So we're going to do about 30 mLs for both coats before we're ready to go in with sanding and decals. So after my 2 coats of epoxy, I have a pretty smooth cup, which was a little bit surprising because I really thought that that bottom section with the chunkier glitter was going to give me a harder time. But after the 30 mLs in my 2 coats, I had a pretty smooth cup, and smooth enough to not need to even do a whole lot of sanding. So I'm going to take my nail filing tool and focus on just the top rim, because that really is all that needs to be sanded here. And again, with this, we're just trying to get a fine line of stainless steel at the top of our cup to create our seal at the top with our final coats of epoxy. So once I have gone around the top of that cup and have that fine line of stainless steel, I'm just going to wipe this off with 91% alcohol and a paper towel so that we can go into doing our vinyl line work. So I didn't show the Cricut design process of this just because it's just vinyl lines, and so what I did was I went into Cricut, I grabbed a square shape and I unlocked that shape and then put my settings at 11.5 inches wide by 0.15 inches in height. And this is kind of the perfect thickness of vinyl lines that I like to use for any projects that I need to create vinyl lines for. And so we're going to start with the black vinyl, and we're just going to sort of section off the lead portion of the pencil on the front side And then on the other side, we're just going to split the white section from the composition notebook looking section. And so after I have done that, I'm just going to do the rest of my vinyl lines. And so I'm going to be using some washi tape as well to be sort of my vinyl lines. The washi tape that I have is literally the same thickness of what I cut in Cricut Design Space, but I unfortunately didn't have any black or white, so I had to use Cricut Design Space to get those. So I'm going to take my gold washi tape here, and I'm just going to vinyl off the wood pencil section of the cup. And so this section takes a little bit of time because you want to make sure that each section that you're applying washi tape to lines up and that you have kind of that perfect V. So this probably is what I spent the most time on, just making sure that everything overlapped correctly. I didn't have any excess over either edge, and making sure that I was as even on my lines where the two glitters meet as possible so that one glitter didn't show through on either side of my washi tape. So take your time with this section. This probably is the most tedious section because it is a completely different shape and not just vinyl lines or vinyl straight line there. But take your time with this and just using your craft knife to cut off any of the excess. So once I am done with that section, I'm just going to make sure that I have nice straight points on all of those triangular sections and making sure that everything looks good. Everything is nice and adhered to the cup so that I don't have any lifting of this when I go on for my final coats of epoxy. So after I'm done with that, I'm going to move on to this gray section here. It didn't have any metallic silver vinyl, so I just went in with some gray that I happened to grab from Hobby Lobby. It's just a Sizer brand vinyl that I happen to have on hand. And so we're just going to create the vinyl lines across the silver section. So I'm going to do a line up top that separates the pencil from the middle, the eraser from the middle section, and then the bottom line that separates the metal section from the pencil itself, and then one line in between, directly in between those two lines to kind of create those ridged looks that you see on the metal section of the pencil. So you'll notice that I'm doing all of my work that's on either side before I go in and do the split portion, and this is because I want to make sure that I don't have any sections that are going to overlap, and I'm actually cutting the sections right where the seam meets, really just kind of off. Meaning that I'm not letting it go directly to where the two sides meet because I know that I'm going to have a section of vinyl that's going to separate both sections of this cup. So I wanted to add these little lines, which I actually don't normally do in my original design for this cup, but I saw it on another cup and I thought how cute to like show off like the different sort of sides of the pencil, because obviously the pencil is not perfectly round. So I kind of loved that. Thought I would add that with a little bit of purple washi tape before I go in with my final lines, which are going to be my white lines to separate these split sides of the cup. So just going directly down the length of the cup. Because this is a curve, I do want to make sure to pay extra close attention to where the curve is and make sure that my vinyl lays down flat in that section, because I have had issues where my vinyl does not lay flat, and even after applying quick coat or polyacrylic, I have kind of some troublesome areas that kind of lead to lots of sanding and reapplying vinyl lines. So paying attention to that curved section, especially if you're going to be using a curved cup, to make sure that you don't have any of that lifting along that curved edge. And so now that all of this is done, I'm going to just let that sit for a little bit. I'll add a little bit of polyacrylic over the top and let that dry, and then we're going to go into adding the water slide on the composition side of the cup. So my final section is going to be water slide. So I got this water slide from an Etsy shop, which I will do my best to link down in the description box. And I just love this super cute little crayon water slide that I picked up, and it's got room for a name. So anybody who wants to personalize this cup, and I just think it's perfect. So I'm just going to cut that water slide to make sure that it is not going to go over the curved edge of the cup and create any wrinkles when I apply the water slide. I'm going to then submerge this in the water, my lukewarm or room temperature water, and put a little bit of water on the cup. You guys have seen me do water slides before, and I will for sure make sure to link a few videos down in the description box. This is not one that I printed, it's one that I purchased a while ago, and so we're just going to apply this like I usually do, adhering one edge at a time, pulling the backing off the edge, and then using my squeegee tool to push out any water before removing the rest of the backing. Once I am done with that, I will just squeegee over the top, make sure that it's straight and there's no water or air bubbles behind it. Then I'm going to dry it with my paper towel, just very carefully dabbing over top, and then this was done. I'm going to wait about 30 or 40 minutes for this to dry, and then this is going to go back on the turner for 2 final coats of epoxy. I loved putting this cup together. I'm so happy to be able to add this to my next launch of tumblers. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, definitely make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And you guys know that I will see you again next week on Tuesday. Bye!